Well, thank you, everybody. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And a couple things that I've queued up here for demonstration. We're going to go right into technicals first, and we're going to talk about a new database transaction pattern. This will just take a minute. And so let's get into presentation mode. And one of the, I guess a design regret I had in the system is the way that I had done transactions, and that's created a couple of pesky issues that Alex finds from time to time as he looks at the system metrics. And I just allowed database transactions to be created from all over the place. And so this is just a simple new pattern that all the collection stuff is doing, which part of what one small example is this function up here is something that is going to be called by the HTTP API. And so when a client makes a call to this path post request, we execute this function. But if we were going to perform the same operation from a WebSocket, we would end up calling this function. Both of these functions now call a kind of a common executor. And this is the high level part right here, is that instead of creating database transactions deep in our services like this function, the new pattern is that these get called in just like the parameters and the overall context object or structure. And so here we create a transaction. There's this common function to roll back transactions if there's an error. And then finally, at the end, we'll commit the transaction. And so all transactions are created basically at the top level of an execution. So there's only one place to create the transaction, one place to roll it back if something went wrong, and one place to commit it. The only thing to be aware of for those who are going to play with this code is that in order for this defer technique to work, which simplifies a bunch of repetitive code, you have to create the errors so that they're accessible in a closure. And so here we can see this error, and this error are all available kind of at the top line. This would not work if we did something like this, which is a common pattern in Go to be like results or if error some function error not equals error not equal nil, do something with the error. This would not work with the defer because each if statement creates its own closure in Go, which means this error doesn't conflict with this error here. But unfortunately, if you were to use this technique in a function like this, it means that the error you pass in up here in the deferred statement wouldn't be the same one here that you tried to return on. So it's just a small got you, but as long as we continue to create our errors at the high level, it will simplify transaction management and ensure that we never have open database connections. So this is mainly a demo for the other engineers. Okay, let's exit presentation mode from my little squiggly line thing here. We're gonna exit presentation mode, get back to Alex. You've got something exciting to demonstrate.
Yeah, so let me share my screen. So we released it. Oh, it's too many screens here. So this is already in production, right? So what is the slide of your reply with Gemini? And if the word Gemini specified, it's going to now select the model that we want. And Gemini was already available. We just had to fix a couple of things to make this this method here aware of there is a new model to be consumed. And I've been working also on cloud. So let me just copy and paste here. This is still hard coded, but now we also have Anthropic Cloud here to be consumed as well. Also have suggestions, everything that we have with OpenAI. I still need to fix a couple of things here and remove some hard coded, but I think I should have a PR this for today or Monday tops. And then we would support like 3 major cloud vendors for LLM.
Awesome, Alex. Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure if we should have the suggestions come from Claude.
No, this is
Right
not coming
now-
from Cloud.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
This is
it's
coming
just
from
in-house.
OpenAI. Yeah, you know, the suggestion I decoupled here. So this is using the cheaper shader. So
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you.
everyone is using the same thing.
Yeah, and cheap chatter for everybody's context, it's a concept wired throughout the system just to use the lowest cost LLM that will do the job. And so right now it's hard coded to one of the OpenAI models. I can't remember which one, but easy to change if we decide to use another model, like maybe Claude's pricing drops a bunch. All these queries that we make to the LLM in the background to like summarize or create a new file name for an asset or create keywords or the suggestions, I'll use this cheap chatter concept. All right, next up is a review of our collections work. Graham, do you feel comfortable sharing the statics?
Yes, sure. If that's something you want to take a look at, it's obviously still very much work in progress, but absolutely, I can show you what I've got. So if we skip across to the actual wireframes that we've got today. So if I just skip into here, we'll see that Ricardo has very, very kindly started pulling together journeys. I think we decided to call them blueprints. So I'm going to try and adopt that language. I'm used to calling them journeys, but we'll call them blueprints. So you can see here that we're looking at the initial landing page for a collections view. And obviously you've got, search and other things. And this is us currently in the creative department here. And we can skip through and we can actually start looking at the contents of that collection. So there's 2 different views, just to highlight this. You'll see a toggle on the top right-hand side here. So this is us almost looking at a grid view, which is showing recent collections, recent chats, recommended questions to ask, the ability to upload and drop files into this particular collection, and to also search it. But if we then toggle to a list view, what we actually get into is a list of all the other collections that are nested within it, but also all the chats that are there too. So this is 2 different views, if you want to call it that, of the landing page for a particular collection. So if we then skip across, and again, we're just looking at this landing page again, that we have a context menu, as I would describe it, that allows you to create a collection, add a collaborator, duplicate and delete the collection. So we've got some context actions here. And you can see that if we decide to create a collection, we go into essentially a modal journey where you're naming the collection. You can add collaborators, upload documents, add smart chats. And obviously Ricardo's very kindly sort of shown us stepping through this. So he's added a title here. And he's starting to add users and share this collection with other users. And obviously at this moment in time, we have the notion of an admin, an org admin, or a collaborator. So this is full access being granted to Finlay here. And we can see that the search list is giving a list of all users that have potential access or being added to this collection. Here we go. And you can obviously see the collaborator piece here. So adding this user as a collaborator, and that can be changed. So if we then go through, we can see that Charles has been added with limited access as a collaborator. So yes, you can see the step flow here of the process of creating a collection and adding users to that particular collection. If we then go up, there's multiple kind of variations of this, but that's the kind of core journey. So if we then go in and we've just created a collection and we've added Finlay, and I'm going to get the person's name wrong, but Finlay and Charles to this collection, we can see that this is almost a blank collection at this point. There's nothing, no real content within it. We can see how that contrasts between the previous collection we're looking at, which is the one up here, which obviously has recent collections and recent chats and so forth. This is almost a blank collection view. So this is before we started adding and chatting with it. So you'd probably say this is the originating state of a collection. Wonderful. So obviously, there's a lot of elements that we're seeing on the screen. I'm going to just skip back across to where I've been focused over the course of today, which is looking at this view here. We did touch on relating to the dynamic smart chats about content stress testing. That's how I hear that. You know, what happens if this one line that we have in the design suddenly becomes 5 paragraphs? And that's a key part of working through the statics. So again, I'm very much work in progress today. Very much trying to get to the stage where I have the core elements in. We've talked about colors and the ability to change colors. So there's a lot of systems and so forth behind the statics as they stand today that isn't necessarily very visible, and it's very, very much work in progress. So please bear that in mind. The goal of this is to try and get things accessible, work out the kinks, get it in the browser, see if there's any considerations that we're not capturing in the design, and making sure that we can feed that back to design. So yes, please don't expect it to look quite just like this yet, but this is where we are today. And again, very, very loose, very, very sketchy. Colors are not quite right, things that are still being worked through. So if I just kind of look down in the bottom left here, even the hover colors are not quite right, but you can see that I am content stress testing everything that we're currently doing. So you can see what happens when suddenly we've got an email address that's too long to be displayed. What happens there, making sure I'm accounting for those stages. In addition, a lot of the work that's happened this week is a lot of these components were historically in using Tailwind and breaking them out, just markup and code in Tailwind and breaking those out into components. So if I just very quickly go in and take a look at this one here, you'll see that we are actually looking at a button here. Let's hold on 1 second. Let's take this here. So main content, call span, load. For some reason, it's got this lovely big piece here, but you can see that I'm actually pulling in. So the class here is action CTA, and you can see the class here is action CTA. This is us moving away from Tailwind and adopting post CSS as part of our delivery. So when I skip back to the designs, you can see that as far as I'm concerned, when I'm looking at this component here, I'm looking at this component here, and to a certain extent, these components here, this is going to become a variation of this one here. So whilst you're not seeing all this flourish, there is a very, very short step between these components here and the other ones that we're currently seeing on the view. And that's really what I'm working through, looking to catch up with where design is iterated over the last week or so, making changes to the statics, migrating the components across to post-CSS components, and getting the colors in as we get some more definition there. So very much work in progress. Very much work in progress. But I would like to stress that the gap between what we're seeing here and what we're actually seeing here is not as wide as it may appear with the systems that are being built into the code as we speak.